My name is Carlos, and, well,
Why are you doing this?
why am I doing this? Well, I think, I think it's important to know if these things are real or not.
Do you believe in the paranormal?
Do I? Yes, I do. I believe in the paranormal. It's always been my understanding and my belief that real paranormal activity is really hard to come by, especially to catch on video. So, today, for our first investigation, we are going to Humber College, which used to be an insane asylum back between 1880 and 1970, I believe. It's in my notes somewhere, but that's where we're going. The Lakeshore Asylum of the Past. Our first stop at the Humber location is the Gateway House. It is probably one of the first buildings that you will see. Let us take a tour around. But while we do that, we might as well learn a little bit. And now we're going to go into a brief history of the location that we are visiting tonight. According to the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital funds at the Archives for the History of Canadian Psychiatry and Mental Health Services, the institution officially opened as the Mímico Branch Asylum on January 20th, 1890. It was a branch of the Provincial Lunatic Asylum at the time. However, early development traces back to 1871. Overcrowding at 999 Queen Street West, which had been a problem from the beginning, compelled the authorities to recommend the construction of a separate quote-unquote branch that would care for the incurably mentally ill patients. In 1884, a group consisting of male patients and attendants were sent to Mímico on a site of a provincial farm to construct the asylum. Some would call this exploitation. These practices continued until the 1950s. In essence, the patients were the ones that built the asylums, and any of the dormitories, anything that's constructed on that land was built by the patients and the attendants of the time at no pay. So that is why it's considered exploitative, because such practices nowadays would not be condoned. The chief provincial architect at the time designed the buildings in the popular combination of Gothic and Romanesque revival styles. The gatehouse. Okay. Ghost Tube says that there's something there.
What is Ghost Tube?
Okay, what is Ghost Tube? Well, Ghost Tube is an app that appears to be very popular right now in the paranormal community, I guess you would say it. And for another show that I have here on YouTube, I have seen footage and, well, try to explain what exactly it is that it's seeing. Basically, the SLS cameras supposedly allow you to see things that are not visible with your eyes, but that are there, right? Regardless. And it allows you to see them in the form of stick figures. Now, the Ghost Tube, it's an app. So it's an app that you use on your phone. And that's what it is, right? Is it real? Well, I'm on the fence. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. What do you think? So what does SLS mean? Okay, so it means structured light sensor. Ideally, you would want to have a camera that is just for that. It's supposed to be able to show you something that's there that you can't visibly see. But the thing is supposed to shoot out some sort of sensor, some sort of sonic thing. But that's the thing, I don't have one. Okay, so what I was using is the Ghost Tube app. Now, how does that work? I am not really sure, but that's what it is. So that's what SLS stands for, Structured Light Sensor. We leave the gateway house and continue further onto the property. Now, it was very dark. There was almost nobody around. There were a few people, but not any that were visible on camera. That is the part that was very eerie, was just how alone and how desolate this area is at night, which, rightfully so, is how one would say it's supposed to be. There isn't supposed to be anyone there at night.
Did you see many people out there?
Well, I mean, it's a neighborhood and it's a college campus, right? So, yes, there were a few people out and about. I saw a few people here and there just in the neighborhood walking around. And then when I got to the campus, there were a few people walking their animals at midnight, which made no sense to me, but whatever, to each their own. I saw not quite a few, I'm not going to say quite a few, but about 3 or 4 people out just in the general area at that time. However, I did hear more people than I actually saw them. And the majority of those people were either in the field, that we're going to see later, just in the dark. It was really weird. And also in the forest areas. So yeah, there were people, just a lot of them were not visible. After a short trek, we arrive at the campuses. It was very lonely. Getting back to the history of this location, the college system of asylums was considered to be superior to the one sprawling structure that allowed for better classification of inmates, and Mímico was the first institution for the insane in Canada that was based upon it. In addition to farming and construction, the inmates were also employed in gardening, cleaning, and carpentry. Work was assigned according to the existing gender roles. Women were thus engaged in domestic tasks such as laundry and cooking, while the men built, cleaned, and constructed. The patients also assisted in burials of the deceased by making coffins and assisting in burying of the bodies at the asylum cemetery. In 1894, the asylum was renamed Mímico Insane Asylum, and it became an institution in its own right. This was due to the increasing patient population at the provincial lunatic asylum, and it was decided that a branch institution no longer sufficed. This represented the first step in the long-term decline of the hospital, which would continue until the late 1950s. The overcrowding soon became an issue, and the standard of care drastically worsened, particularly during the Great Depression of the 1930s. The funding was so scarce that markers could not even be provided for the patients buried at the cemetery, and violence was a daily reality within the institutional walls. The institution, which was renamed as the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital in 1964, closed on September 1st, 1979, following the decision of the Ministry of Health to shut it down due to its substandard facilities.
Supposedly, Building G is haunted. Well, no ghost lady. No.
Okay. That thing is really huge, or this thing doesn't work. Fascinating. The ghost lady that I referenced earlier was a local legend about the asylum. Supposedly, one of the nurses that was there before got involved in a sort of relationship, either sexual or romantic, it is not clear, and she ended up committing suicide. She hung herself by one of the trees in the orchard, supposedly, because she was ashamed and because of the public reaction to what she was doing, as the story goes. The one thing that I did notice that night that I investigated was, yes, there was a lot of animal movements, and also you can hear people in the field having fun, joking around, messing around. Typical college kids. Well, here's Humber College at night. Oh. Getting back to the history of the location. As the provincial lunatic asylum, large-scale Victorian asylums were seen as inhumane and monstrous, not to mention antiquated. Over time, they proved to be highly inadequate, and many patients became homeless once the facility started to close down, which was unfortunate. Not surprisingly, owing to the fact that many of the buildings stood empty for a number of years, this site has inspired countless ghost stories and urban legends. By 1967, this site started to become what is presently known as Humber College. By 1970, Humber College became the biggest college in Canada. As the years rolled by, there were a lot of different ghost stories told by the students.
Very creepy. Shh.
Some students have claimed that they are being watched. Other students have claimed that when they're walking alone at night, that they feel like they're being watched or followed. As eerie as it is to walk around at night, which I don't recommend to anyone to do, the only thing that I came across currently was the sound of people in the soccer fields. You can hear them. They were clearly having some sort of gathering or party. I did get the sense of being watched, but part of me wonders if that's because of the students that might have been in the area, and also you have to consider campus security, which I did encounter on a few occasions, but they were in cars. And well, I mean, let's face it, I'm a 6 foot tall, 260 pound man, wearing all black with a camera in my hand. I think that yes, I would have looked suspicious. But also, given the time and I guess the location and the month, most campus security is aware that people are coming down at night to either have fun or to do ghost investigations. As silly as that may be.
To be honest with you, I'm the only person out here. Well, there's a few people running around in the dark over there in the forest. And public transit still comes in because this is a fully functional and operational college. But nothing creepy or haunted at night. Believe me, much to my dismay. Or could that have been a ghost bus?
The one thing that there was an abundance of in the area at night was all kinds of animal life. I saw a lot of just stray cats running around. A lot of night birds just flying around and making a lot of racket. I saw rabbits, a lot of rabbits in the forest location. And also, I had to steer clear of a lot of skunks because there were a lot of skunks just running around in the area. I did see a few people here and there. Mostly they were walking their dogs at night, which was very odd for someone to be walking their animal at 1 o'clock in the morning. But that's neither here nor there. As I stated before, I did hear a lot of commotion coming from the forest areas, where there were groups of people hanging around, either having a party or doing something that, well, they shouldn't be doing in the forest. But that's not for me to judge. We arrive at the trail that is behind the old power plant.
Could that be the nurse? Hung herself from the apple tree. Oh, shit.
The one thing that I did notice in my walk was the instability of the weather. The weather would change quite often, from being extremely windy to rainy to quiet to rainy to windy. It was very strange. Some say that that's paranormal, but you don't live in Canada. That's how it is here.
Wow. Okay. It's gone.
What did you think about the light turning off?
Okay, so at this point there, how do I put this? I had already been seeing a lot of this whole SLS thing, and then the light just turned off. It was a very interesting coincidence, and I'm going to say it's a coincidence because, okay, logically speaking, I know what was happening. The light sensors turned off because they must have been triggered before I got there. How? I don't know. And just lack of movement, the light turned itself off. It's a sensor, right? Right? So how did I feel? I mean, not that it didn't scare me. It was just more like it was very surprising, right? Because it's just like, okay. Well, so currently, as we speak, this building here that we're walking around is used as a student recreation center. Also, it is where they store the Zamboni machines that they use to take care of the ice rink, which is just around the corner. A lot of stories have been told about the nurse making herself present in this area. Could that have been what we were catching on the SLS cameras, I wonder? I did end up bumping into a lot of kids that were making out in dark corners, and for obvious reasons I did not include them in this video, but they were there.